welcome back. We are glad to have you here today again, or tonight, or whatever time zone, or whatever time of the day you might be in. We're just glad that you're here. It's the fact that you actually want to show up and watch these things that just still amazes us. So we'll see how many we can add on here, and we can just keep on going with these and just keep up with you guys and all of your thoughts and ideas. Today we're going to work on our top 10 comic book movies. With me, as always, is Artisan K.
Hello.
We're going to go ahead and break it down for our top 10 because we just love these 10 lists. And what better way to, give you a good summary of all things that are comic book movies by only talking about 10, because we're going to try and keep this down to about 20, 30 minutes if we can.
Well, there's a lot that you can have on this list.
Yeah.
And it can be a very mediocre list because there's a lot of okay comic book movies out there.
Mm-hmm.
But there isn't a lot to choose from when it comes to greatness.
No, you can't really quite say that there's a really, truly great one out there. There's really good ones. There's ones that we can say are noteworthy. Obviously, we were able to pick out 10, but none that you can say are like the end-all, be-all, this is the best comic book movie ever.
Yeah, it's hard to really compile. I mean, there's a buttload of B ratings. And it's just, for me, I got to...
metric ton of
Yeah, I had to go with all those A's if I could find them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I found a few.
Yeah. Well, we can maybe do this one of these days alphabetically, too, just for the heck of it, so we can start changing things up a bit. But either way, moving right into it here, from our number 10 down to our number 1, what is best in life? Well, a comic book that became a movie that a lot of you probably didn't know was a comic book first. Yeah. I think a lot of people that watch a movie and then automatically assume that was the first thing that started it. That's where it came from. That's what it originated at, which was just funny because a lot of movies these days try to, make themselves out to be historically accurate, and people take them as such, even though any of us who've actually read a history book know better. So, of course, we're talking about something completely different. But moving back to what we were talking about here is Conan the Barbarian.
Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger's best work, really.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's best pecs and not biceps, for sure.
The man can play a barbarian, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Just like he can play an android. He's really good at playing robots.
Yeah. He has a really good Austrian accent.
Yeah.
All the time.
So why isn't he played a Nazi? I don't know, but
I think his grandfather was a Nazi too, or at least he was part of the Nazi army. Anyways.
So yeah.
Neither here nor there, but
barbarians were of German-ish descent, and that's really cool to have him in that movie. The second movie, pretty crappy. I don't want to exist in that one very much. There's some entertaining.
We're not going to go there. Not going to really broach that one. We're just going to talk about the good ones, that would be one of them.
That was a pretty solid movie. They definitely played the part well, and they had James Earl Jones as the bad guy counterpart, and really appreciated him. Yes. And
Who knew that not only could he have a great booming voice like that, he could actually pick up a live snake, turn it into an arrow, and fling it at somebody. That's just sorcery of a different kind there.
Yeah.
But anyways, fantastic, I guess you could say, idea. It wasn't exactly cinemagraphically amazing. It had great actors. They were all kind of starting off early. This is when, Arnie was just starting to do acting and doing movies, so it was kind of cool to see him at the peak of his fitness when he was actually working out and training for Mr. Olympia. So to see him at the peak of his perfection and as far as physique goes, this definitely worked well for the movie. If you're going to be a barbarian, why not be him? That's just ridiculously overabundant in juicing, I guess, at that time. I don't know, but
he was actually a lot leaner, I think, during that time than he ever was in the 70s or whatever. But not that has anything to do with his acting ability, but he definitely.
But
fit
as far
the
as
part
portraying
well.
a certain character on screen, yes, he definitely fit the bill for that one. So we were appreciative of that, and it is definitely something that did a good job of kind of following the comic book. And of course, it was pretty gruesome in a lot of ways, very gory, very horror movie-esque also. But
great ending.
Fantastic ending.
Yeah. I just love how, he prays to Crumb when he doesn't ever do that. And he's all like, grant me revenge. And if you don't, then that's good stuff.
Great guttural.
So this part's interesting. We're going to go on to number 9, which is Batman Begins into Dark Knight. And basically, the second half of Batman Begins and the first half of Dark Knight is a really excellent Batman movie.
You just chop those two off and just kind of put them together. That would be our pick for a great Christopher Nolan Batman movie. Not to say they did a terrible job by any means. They were still entertaining movies, but one of the most grounded in reality Batman attempts that we've seen, and it very much made him feeble. And that's the thing that really started to hurt it as it went on throughout the movies. Especially in the third one, which we can just omit that altogether. I can say, hey, I can appreciate Batman Begins, I can appreciate The Dark Knight. When you get to the third movie, I can just pretty much forget that it ever happened because you can just omit it purely off of continuity errors alone because that movie is chock-a-block full of them. I think the actors and the director just kind of phoned that whole thing in and just decided that, the first two are box office hits. Let's just go ahead and ride the coattails off of those two for the third one and not bother.
And why did you get Dave Bautista to play Bane?
Why didn't
beyond me.
Yeah.
Obviously, you missed the boat there.
He had the right height. Bane's supposed to tower over Batman. He's supposed to be menacing compared to Batman. He's not supposed to be a buff, short guy who's trying his hardest the whole time.
Having a hard time speaking.
Having a hard time speaking, but also having a hard time covering over his English accent, even while having a weird voiceover muffer going on there.
We know that
Sorry, Tom Hardy, you're all right as an actor,
we
but
know that Christopher Nolan is in love
this.
with certain actors. We get that. We see that.
Especially British actors.
Yeah.
For an all-American movie.
Yeah. Very British. It's the British Batman.
Exactly.
And it's definitively the British Batman.
Mm-hmm. And we don't completely hate it for that. There's aspects of it we still like. I mean,
it's on our top list.
Yeah. Who would disagree with a lot of the acting choices they put in there? I mean, come on, there's just lots of good stuff to look into there and pick apart and go after. But ultimately, as a movie itself, the two don't really stand well on their own. So that's why we kind of decided to mix the two together.
Mix them together. It's on this list.
Mm-hmm. It's on par with such things, which will bring us around to number 8. Amazing Spider-Man, or was it The Amazing Spider-Man? Or Amazing Spider-Man. Either way, Andrew Garfield, hats off to you. Well done. Somebody who actually tried to pull off a New York accent.
New York.
Yes. Made a good attempt at it.
Mm-hmm.
Was actually a better actor out of all the choices we've had so far. Sorry to Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland. Yeah, you guys just didn't really fit the bill for us. We don't know exactly what they're going for with this new Spider-Man because it's not comic book accurate. But as far as keeping it accurate, keeping it as an entertaining story, and actually had good graphics along all that. Yes, bringing it up to the modern times. Very good job.
Not losing anything. I thought they did a fine job. I wish the second one was better. The second one had some faults, but it was still a decent film.
Yeah, had a little too much Jamie Foxx, not enough good acting. It's a problem.
But whatever his name is, I don't even remember. Electroid? I don't know. I'm bad.
Shockzam? I don't know.
Shockzam. They did bring Shocker in there for the Homecoming. It's terrible. Anyway, why would you call a Spider-Man Homecoming movie Homecoming? Because he went to Homecoming dance.
Just a little too simplistic for our taste. Other than Michael Keaton, I don't really feel the need to mention much about Homecoming because who cares?
But it's another one that goes, it's right in the middle somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so
even having a special mention for Emma Stone in there because she's, I don't really want to say anything too horrible about her. I mean, there's nothing bad to say per se, but there's no award-winning performances so far.
No, she was cute in that movie. She played the part well. We lost MJ somewhere along the lines, which is fine actually in some ways. They made it different than the predecessors with Tobey Maguire. You didn't hire Kirsten Dunst or whatever, Kirsten or whatever he called her.
Yeah, Snaggletooth Dunst.
Cool with that, too.
No upside-down kissing in the rain. Sorry, we don't need this to be a love story. We don't need this to be some kind of overly romanticized idea of what Spider-Man is. He's a smart-talking high schooler who's a genius, by the way. Thank you very much. He's got a genius intellect, and he uses it quite a bit. Yeah.
And he's kind of a nerd.
Again, sorry, Holland, you're just not really fitting the bill there.
He's not really doing it.
I don't know what they're going for there, because obviously you have more
Tobey Maguire
awkward high school moments than you have genius moments.
Tobey Maguire pulled off the dork or the nerd so well that he didn't translate that into Spider-Man very much. It was like there's two separate people with the same stupid voice.
Yeah.
It was weird. Maybe.
Which brings the problem with a lot of these superheroes is that, their alter egos really aren't too hard to differentiate from the actual superhero. So in some ways, too, he did a good job of kind of splitting the people up into two different entities. But with Spider-Man, you kind of know that what you see is what you get kind of thing. Other than the mask, we'd know exactly for, everything that he says that's Peter Parker.
Yeah, it did a fine job with that movie. Even throwing the lizard in there with all the CGI, it wasn't that bad.
No,
it was
didn't overtake the movie.
It was kind of a terrifying thing for them to do. Like, you're going to go with a full CGI character, but it worked. Yeah. It somehow worked.
And pulled it off.
So, I'm moving right along, and into number 7, slides.
Slides firmly into that position.
Slides in there is The Crow. And I don't know, it's probably a lot of people that are watching this have no idea what we're talking about, but The Crow...
There has been a few horrible remakes, but we're talking about the original here.
We're talking about Brandon Lee in his best and most well-known movie.
Yeah.
And
last movie.
Well, Brandon Lee is the son of Bruce Lee, if you don't know that.
Yep.
And he died during the making of this film. And that's not the reason why it's a good movie.
Due to a prop accident, we can sit and speculate all day long as what actually went on there. And I've heard a couple different stories, so not technically that there was a live round in there, but just that their percussion cap was lodged in there just right, and it hit him in a way that almost seemed like a projectile, but just enough to send him to the hospital and eventually succumb to his injuries. So.
And I didn't see anybody complaining and wanting a Oscar nod because he died in the making of a movie.
No honorary Oscar just because he happened to pass away in a movie.
Weird.
We're looking at you there, Heath. Sorry. You've had some okay moments here and there, but still not Oscar worthy. It's just one of those sympathy things. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, he's not dead. His beard just kind of... Anyway.
No, but his acting is.
No. So anyway, I like the darkness of the movie. I like the music in the movie. The soundtrack's pretty cool. I don't know, it just kind of fit my... my angstiness around the time I watched it. Like I was watching it with my folks when it first came out.
One of those moments where it's just like, I don't have a girlfriend, but if I did, oh yeah, same type of revenge, baby. Yeah, you'd all get it.
Right. I was like pretty young when it came out, and my parents weren't like, I don't know, they wanted to watch good movies, but then they realized, I have young kids here. We can't watch this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, I really want to see this. This looks really good.
My parents had a hard time with that too because they wanted to see good movies also. They had great movie taste, and we particularly liked actions. Of course, most of the boys and the girl liked action, and my dad liked action. My mom just kind of put up with it a lot, so bless her heart for sitting through a lot of that. But a lot of moments of, fast forwarding it, look over here, mom's up in front of the TV, blocking those scenes. All right, and back to the movie. Thanks, all right.
Yeah. And this is one of those movies that I decided I'm going to watch later on in life, and I really enjoyed it. My high school years, I basically became very gothic because of this movie and other things. But very enjoyable, very dark, very brooding movie.
Went along with my Johnny Cash era style. So
and I'm
for
okay.
everything being black, it wasn't so much a goth thing, more was a Johnny Cash thing, but misunderstood as all teenagers are, right?
I mean, it's like, I'm glad that they didn't do a remake. I mean, they did some other movies, but
they tried to make sequels. They tried to do different things, but nothing ever really matched up to that. Not to mention, there's an interesting eclectic cast, but I thought they pulled off the ambiance really well. Yeah. That they stuck to the story really good, and Brandon Lee did a good job of being a tormented, brought back to life character, and I think that it did very well.
Poor, in love, dead girlfriend, brought back from the dead.
Needless to say, can't rain all the time.
It just can't, and mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children.
Indeed.
So
drugs are bad for you.
Yeah.
And so many of these movies really hit that point home.
They had a positive message deep
but
down.
It could also be put up as an anti-hero comic book movie as well, because as great as he was, and yes, he was out for justice, it was still vigilante justice. It was still gruesome. It was still just go back and kill the people that killed you.
But we know a few of those people.
Yeah.
We know a few of those.
Know a few of them.
So number 6 on our list is like our first and only interaction with Zack Snyder in this whole list, and it's The Watchmen. Now, the Watchmen movie is incredibly accurate except for one part. And that part would have been kind of weird, I guess, at the time. Now they're doing a TV show on HBO, and I have no interest in that. But the cinematography.
Some things are just left alone, are standing on their own and doing well, and should just never be gone back to. Sometimes they just want to beat a dead horse with a TV show.
Well, visually, this movie was filmed so well, it made me think, well, of course this guy can do a Batman flick, but we didn't do a Batman flick. We did a Batman v Superman flick. So it would have been really interesting to see that, and all the characters, very violent.
Well, and he mostly did Justice League until they had to bring in Joss Whedon to help finish it up.
We don't know what
things got really weird, and apparently we're never going to get a director's cut of that, because across the board with all these movies, it's interesting to note that they're so much better, and practically any movie's better, when you get the full director's cut. When you get the full vision of what they were intending, what they wanted to put in, all the different character build-up stories that kind of help give you a better picture of who some of these people are, that suddenly just get chopped on the editing room floor for time. This just makes me dislike editors even more, because they really ruin a lot of great stories, Batman versus Superman being top of the list.
But I understand why they do it. You're sitting in a theater for 3.5 hours. You're going to have to take a leak. I understand why they cut them up.
We should bring back the intermission.
We should just not have movie theaters and stream everything on our TVs.
Oh, wait.
So, yeah, that movie...
Kind of like we have now.
Yeah, that movie's great, minus the blue glowing penis.
Yeah.
I could have done without
one situation where an editor really could have done, really could have shown in that moment, and yet, no. Just felt the need to let that thing just flop through the whole movie.
Yeah. Not at least most of the movie. But yeah, the characters, good actors chosen that aren't super popular actors, mind you.
Yeah, they were a little bit, not so much known name, but a little lesser known for sure.
But they've all done stuff. It's just they weren't all super, popular actors really. And a lot of them I know now mostly because of that movie. So I really appreciate that aspect of it too. And like I said, the director's cut, just out of this world.
Good stuff. Comedian, the Negan, hey, either way, same. Ooh.
It was really action. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Anyway.
Rolling right into our number 5, and halfway through our list now, we have one of our favorites because it took so long for it to finally come to fruition and been talked about for a long time. The actor who was born to play this role finally put up his own money and made this happen. And they thought it was going to flop at first, which is why it didn't get the full budget that I think it deserved the first time around.
Could have been better.
And boy, did he prove all of them wrong, didn't he? We're talking to you, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
My boo. So, Deadpool, yes. We had a little inkling, we had a slight sight into what Marvel's idea was going to be for Deadpool in X-Men Wolverine or X-Men Origins Wolverine, and we saw how horribly botched that was. Yet again, just goes to show you that we need to stick with the freaking source material and then expound off of that, and you can have a good movie. But as soon as you try and change a character completely different to what he actually is and just kind of take this great idea that you have and throw it out the window, well, you get to see the horrible, mucky mess that was left over with that version of Deadpool, and it was amazing to see them actually make a full movie of it because it totally redeemed itself.
Yes, this movie, what's really great about this movie is that little bit of video that they had online that was released for the fans to watch and go.
Well, it was fan-made, wasn't it?
I think it was not fan-made because he had his voice in it. It was just CGI, and
that's
then
true. They just gave us like a
little tidbit,
of what could be.
And it was like, oh, everybody wants to see this.
Yes!
And then all of a sudden...
and then we'll put it in the movie and make it even better.
Yeah, and it was even better in the movie. I mean, the opening sequence alone. I mean, just call me Angel.
Yeah, another great soundtrack of all movie hilarity, too. Another one on our list really kind of ranks up there for one of the best soundtracks as well, but this one would be on a list. If we were to say best comic book movie soundtracks, this would be on it.
It has to be a combination, right? The music doesn't make the movie, and the movie doesn't make the music. You just kind of have to have the good combination of that.
Like any good relationship, they have to complement each other.
Yeah, complementary. Not like, what's out of the window, out of the wall, where's this coming from?
And leave all of your unrealistic expectations at the door.
Yes. Well, it would help if I didn't read any of these comic books, I suppose. I probably would have had...
Going in blind makes you feel a little better about it sometimes.
A little more of a, I don't know what's going on here. This is a good movie. And you know what? I bet it is a good movie. You know what? It's probably better if they went with the source material. And the other Deadpool,
if nothing else, at least kept the character the same. Yeah. We're talking to you, Fox, and the whole ridiculous, mucky mess botch that was all the X-Men franchise. Let's just stick to the source material, stick to the characters, and you had a slam dunk had you just not tried to change the whole thing around.
Yes. And that being said, could we have more in it? Yeah, probably. But this is like, there was so much going up to this that we needed it so badly. So it happened. It was great. It was enjoyable. It was funny. I watched it like 2 days in a row, and I still enjoyed it.
Any movie that can give you rewatchability back to back is a good movie.
Well, that's a big part of these lists too. You got to want to rewatch it. If you can't rewatch it, if it was good the first time, that means it's probably a B.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you thought it was an A. You watched it again like a year later, and you're like, meh.
Budget, franchisability, well-known Disney capability and all that, you would have thought Ant-Man would have stood a little bit longer than it did.
Yeah.
But one of those movies that was just a great watch the first time through, and now it's pretty much a meh.
Here's the thing. I don't care about Ant-Man.
Yeah.
But,
as a character, I wouldn't say that he ranks very high in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, the way they did it was fine.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't
No major complaints.
I just ultimately don't care that much. So I can't just keep going with it just because you did a fine job with the character.
If you base a whole franchise off the Avengers comic book, and then you omit Ant-Man out of that completely, it makes you wonder what the heck. But then bringing him back later to get his own franchise, I mean, I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, maybe just kind of like an afterthought, but they knew darn good and well from the get-go that he wasn't a very popular character, so why waste a bunch of screen time on him? Well, they didn't, and again, not to say that we hated Ant-Man by any means, it was still a good movie, but why?
Yeah, wasting my time.
So rolling into another Marvel movie.
Actually, we're going into Marvel movies now.
Yeah. The world that is, that, as much as we can sit there and say bad things about moments of it that Disney did, ultimately they did create something pretty spectacular, and they did a wonderful job overall with the Marvel Universe.
And this is one of our 3 MCU movies on this list. And
they've done so many of them,
yeah.
it kind of makes sense just by law of averages, but they actually did a good job with these.
Yes, and I suppose you're surprised we don't have more, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
never read Guardians of the Galaxy,
yeah.
which probably helped with how great this movie was.
Yeah, they were obscure, not so much they were bad characters and boring, say like Plastic Man or something like that.
Well, they were originally.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the '70s, and then they're going with the new modern Marvel Universe version of it with Star-Lord and all that, and Chris Pratt, perfect.
Basically the Chris Pratt version, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Pratt is perfect for this role. But you know what's great about it is this is like the first movie I'd seen in like a decade, probably a decade, where I was watching it going, I'm watching something new.
Yeah.
Something interesting. Something blue, even. Oh, it was really...
Yeah, original stories are hard to come by with the world of regurgitated remakes.
Right.
I mean, so many movies out there that... Why did they happen in the first place? Why do we get a remake? Why do we have to kick a dead horse forever and again? Well, I don't know. And heck, it made them money. I'll give them that. Points for cash grabs. But I mean, it's funny to me that some of these movies do so well when it's like, hey, guess what? The original was better.
Yeah, and this one is way better than the second one too. I don't care what anybody says. The second one was okay. I mean, it wasn't a bad movie by any
The first
stretch.
one kind of kickstarts it off. It's hard to recapture that magic again. And as good of a movie as it was, very entertaining. I mean, having a young version of Kurt Russell doing his thing with his mullet, all nice and fluffy, was pretty great. But did it stand up to the first one? Not quite. And was it entertaining the first time? Yes, but it didn't have the rewatchability of the first one.
First one I can still watch right now, and I probably will. I'm going to go, and I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, we're going to stop. We're going to shut this video off right now. And in fact, forget it. We're over with this.
Done with this. I'm going to go watch. No, I'm kidding, but I'm going to.
That's how much we like it.
And it had a great soundtrack.
In our number 4 spot.
Yeah, in our number 4 spot. Great soundtrack. Wonderful soundtrack to fit with it. Having characters.
Always appreciated soundtracks because it was always, especially with epic movies and action movies and all that, you get more orchestra music. You know, it kind of surprising that they didn't have a combination Tim Burton and Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were able to piece together a lot of, and some of them were obscure hits of the classics rock
they weren't just
back
all
in the day.
like top 10 lists of music from the 70s or whatever.
It was nice to pull some interesting ones out of there that you wouldn't have known before. Lakeshore Drive was a pretty popular song back in its day, but who would have ever known about it now?
But that's in the second movie.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's all good. It's all good. And having a tree as a character that says nothing but I am Groot. Best work Vin Diesel ever did.
Yeah.
Hands down. Best work.
Special note, I had no idea that he was a classically trained actor and actually went to school for this. It's just, you'd assume that he was a bouncer at one point, which he was, and then just decided to pick up acting one day. But apparently there's some schooling behind that method.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nothing horribly against Vin Diesel. I kind of like the guy, but it's just interesting to know some backstory about that.
And then having Bradley Cooper playing a raccoon and not really even knowing it's Bradley Cooper. Like, I get sick and tired of all these famous people doing voices for CGI shows and cartoons, and you know who it is most of the time because they're not doing anything other than being hired for their, name. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, you're not acting, you're not creating a character, so I don't.
Which is interesting when you get cameos like Simon Pegg in Force Awakens. It's interesting because, that's cool, you got to be ish in a Star Wars movie, but who would have known because you sounded nothing like you. It's interesting to me, like situations with Bradley Cooper and Rocket Raccoon. It didn't sound like him.
Nope.
His voice was changed a little bit, and they muffled a little bit, or however they did some effects on there, whatever. It is interesting to note that, okay, you kind of pick up after a while that could be Bradley Cooper, but in no way did it sound like, I know who that is, as much as I Am Groot told you exactly who that was. Because I Am Groot and I Am Giant, Giant Robot, Giant.
I don't think he actually was Iron Giant.
He was the voice of Iron Giant, and it's just crazy to me to think that people don't get that because it's him and then it's him and you know that darn good and well. Whereas other voices, it takes you a second to pick up on it until you see the credits and you're like, I guess that sounded like him. So just an interesting thought.
His second best work was being killed in Saving Private Ryan. Anyway, so
Scaparzio, no.
Yeah, no thanks. But ultimately, it was very fun, very quick pace, but not in a bad way, and it was bringing in like new science fiction into our lives that we hadn't seen before, and it made me feel like, we've seen something new here for the first time, and I appreciate that about it.
Yeah, big points for an original story, for sure.
But this is like the first like non-Avengers group that we really appreciated. But moving right along to number 3 is the Avengers, the
original,
Avengers.
the first, the big epic.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. That was a big dill pickle. Is what that was.
Yeah.
Seeing all of them together, oh my gosh, I can still watch that to this day. Yeah. Actually making the Hulk a decent character in a movie. My goodness.
Took them 2 movies to figure it out, but they finally got around to it.
Right.
And I don't even like Ruffalo as a person, but his acting was okay for this one, and I think he did a pretty good job in it. But it was nice to see a Hulk that we actually liked on screen.
I even give him a free pass for their Vidal Sassoon, hair headbutt in the beginning of the film because it was just such a good movie.
Yeah.
I didn't really, whatever, Scarlett Johansson's hair, it's fine. I don't, it doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah.
And some of the, plot holes from the previous movies bringing into this movie, you're like...
Well, which goes to show you, when you bring all these different random actors together as a crew to helm a movie instead of just one stealing all the screen time, kind of getting pretty equal screen time around the rest of them, it can make obscure characters pretty enjoyable. In fact, getting Thor 3 whole movies, do I agree with that? No. Do I think it should have been done? No. Were they all great? Not in the slightest. But he was still a pretty entertaining character, and I liked him as a whole with the Avengers.
Yeah.
Got a little bit campy towards the end there with the Endgame and with Infinity War and all that, where suddenly everybody was a comic relief. It's like, hold on a second, that's usually reserved for 1 or 2 people, especially obscure people, not suddenly everybody being funny.
Everybody's making fun of themselves, having a good old time.
With anything, we can pick it apart. We can point out things that just didn't need to happen, as usual. And were they entertaining? Yes, but it's nice to see you can get these kind of big names and big heads all together on one screen and actually share the limelight instead of everybody fighting for it. I thought they did a pretty balanced job of that.
And there's like 1 or 2... There was this one shot alone that really sets it off for me, and it's that panning shot that goes like you're following, the group around as they're fighting in New York. It's a lot of fun, and they kind of kept trying to do stuff like that, so that's why I can't...
Gratuitous posing aside, I can let that go when it's just kind of cool and had a lot of good moments where it's just kind of like, slow-mo pose, and back to action.
Yeah, but it was, there was times I watched it in 3D, and I wanted to just grab the characters off the screen and play with them.
Yeah.
Like, they're action
just want you to be an action figure. You're so opposable.
Which means they did a really good job of making them look like the characters in that. Yeah. You gave Captain America's pretty much his actual suit, which they didn't really do for any of the other movies. Mm-hmm. But that one, they did.
Yeah.
He
even wore the helmet for a little while, too.
Yeah. They had to take it off because we needed to know it was Chris Evans. I didn't know.
I had no idea who that was. I'm all, the helmet came off. You blew my mind.
I swear it's a thing where they have to have FaceTime,
Yeah.
Why don't you guys get yourself a Facebook
Which is why Carl Urban will always hold a very special place in my heart for donning a helmet the entire movie.
Yes.
And you knew darn good and well it was him. We didn't lose anything by him not taking the helmet off the entire time. Yeah. And it was accurate to the character.
Well done, sir.
Well done movie. And completely underrated. Not like we're saying it's the best movie in the world by any means. It's got its
flaws. Not even on this list.
It's got its flaws like anything else. And yes, it's not on this list, but it gets an honorable mention because it was just good.
Yeah. Wear your mask. Mm-hmm. What the heck, man? You're supposed to wear a mask.
You're going to play the character? Play the character.
It's not like you're Iron Man. Oh, which is our number 2 on this list.
Yeah.
Who got this whole thing started in the first place. Mm-hmm. Perfect casting. Robert Downey Jr.
The evolution of Robert Downey Jr., just like being down here, just like I could care less. Heart and Souls, it was a pretty funny movie, but I thought all the supporting characters were better than him. And then he went through all of his drugs and alcohol and rehab and all that, finally got his life back together, and then suddenly, Tony Stark. It makes sense. What a great casting job. Right. And he actually surprised me with it, too. I knew he was going to do a pretty decent job. He did a great job.
Yeah. And none of the other movies, unfortunately, stood up to the first one, because the first one really got everything started, and it was a good movie altogether.
Yeah, it got the whole franchise started.
Yeah, and it got their whole MCU going, because it sure as heck wasn't going to be the Hulk. No. And, Captain America didn't do it. I'm sorry. And neither did Thor.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but if you're going to take a Thor action figure, it wouldn't be Thor, it'd be Chris Hemsworth, and he wouldn't have his Thor's hammer, it'd just be a full-size mirror that you can set up with him. Because, as far as I'm concerned, Chris Hemsworth loves Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, and that's why Thor's not on this list.
Mm-hmm. But, Which, not to say the movies weren't somewhat entertaining to a certain extent, but just a whole lot of why. Why? I think a lot of these characters could have gotten one movie on their own, and it would have been good enough. The fact that we got 3 for no good reason, just goes to show you that, shirtless men still sell.
Yeah. I think that ultimately, he had a lot of problems with their continuity within those 4 movies, but I still appreciate Iron Man in the beginning and Avengers 1 the first. And
nobody's perfect, but they're certainly not as bad as the X-Men franchise as far as continuity is concerned.
This is what started happening to my viewership.
Yeah.
After that. And now, I don't even care.
A little bit overdone, for sure. Yeah. As cool as the whole universe was, they went a little too far with it. Yes, it was a good cash cow for them for a while, but it just About 3 or 4 movies too many.
Yeah. That brings us to another universe that started way back in the 70s, and we're not even going to talk about that guy.
No.
We're going to talk about this guy.
Yeah.
1989's Batman.
Our collective favorite across the board among all superheroes
Number
because
one!
he's not technically a superhero. He's not super. He's human.
He's a comic book character.
He's a comic book character, and he stands up to all the other superhumans. He just points out even more the fact of how not cool Superman is.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but when you're somebody who's got that kind of power you're not cool, but yet you're Batman and you're cooler than everybody, you pulled off something great.
When you can be Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom, and yet you can be an awesome Batman.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Batman or
when
if it's
you can
Michael
be
Keaton.
Ben Affleck, and then suddenly we like you more because you portrayed Batman so well. Batman's just that cool.
But see, this movie made so much sense to me, even though Tim Burton had no idea anything about Batman. He knew a lot about Dracula.
Yeah.
And Dracula is basically what
he knew a lot about the similar
Batman
tones, cinematography. Danny Elfman knew about the music. They were a great combination. It just goes to show you that if somebody pays attention to the source material and sticks to it, it's amazing what you can pull off, isn't it?
Marriage. And Jack was a great Joker.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
Heath. Sorry, Joaquin. But I love Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And love me some Jack.
Yeah.
And
no honorable mention for the Kings and Queens Joker because it's just, I'm sorry, he's not a gangster, and we couldn't understand what he was talking about after a while, and even though he wasn't licking his lips profusely, whatever he was doing was just annoying.
You got your face beat in by Edward Norton.
Yeah.
All right? That's all I got to say.
Yeah. I will forever remember you as something that was beautiful that needed to be destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. So
what a great job.
Batman, wonderful film.
Mm-hmm.
Still stands the test of time in my mind, in your mind. I can watch it once a year.
Still keeps Michael Keaton relevant in my mind for everything he does, even though he's done some great movies now that have really brought him back to his character acting abilities. Multiplicity was a great one from back in the day that people don't really know about. There's a couple of different really cool ones that he's done that people are just kind of like, oh, okay, I don't really know much about him. But then suddenly Batman, and the funny controversy surrounding him back in the day was kind of similar to what we got from Ben Affleck initially. When he was announced, oh, I couldn't stand it. I was annoyed. I hated it. And then suddenly I watched the movie, and I was pleasantly surprised.
It was pretty wonderful.
And so I think a lot of people are doing the same thing with Mike Keaton, going, what the heck is this guy doing as Batman? It doesn't make any sense. He's not tall. He's not brooding. He's not a brawler. There's not a whole lot of him physically that makes you think that. Then suddenly you see him step into the cowl, and you're just like, holy cow. Could there be anybody else who've done this movie as well as he did?
Yeah.
I maintain no.
Could you imagine if they actually had a third movie?
Oh, man. What could have been?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
I bet he gets really old and feeble.
He was
and he gets his back broken by a guy that's shorter than him. No,
wait,
probably not. That's probably
won't happen.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our top 10 list.
Yep.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed coming along with us for another journey of top 10s. I think we're going to kind of stay in this vein because it seems to be our wheelhouse. We got a lot of material on this, lots of thoughts and ideas on the topics, so we're going to keep on running with this one for a little while. Go ahead and throw a comment down there if you like where we're going with this. Hopefully we've, again, sparked some enjoyment in old movies that you hadn't seen in a long time, or maybe even comic book movies that you didn't know were comic book movies that you want to see now.
Right.
And let us know what you thought about them because we love the feedback. So go ahead and just keyboard jockey it away down there for us if you like. We'll roll the end credit screen here. Appreciate you stopping by again, Artisan K. Always enjoy it.
Well, I live here, so hey.
Hey, why not? It just makes sense, right? So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.
Goodbye.